So, the future. We've witnessed something that's gone from about 15 of us to this thing that has become massively huge. We've witnessed the growth, really, of a custom with all the interesting things that go around it. And in terms of, as a folklorist, I find the whole thing absolutely fascinating. And many people have written about it and studied it and all the rest of it. But has it got too big? Is question number one. Has it got to the point where it's almost too big for itself? It's a question that I leave it hanging in the air. One of the, I said earlier, you lot read too much. The toilets on the West Hill cost £5,000. They're probably the biggest expense of the whole event.
What's that? You say the toilets, you say?
The toilets.
Yeah. The castle wall was free.
And funding, for various reasons, as we all know, life has got hard for various reasons, is drying up. And I'm already in discussion with Hastings Borough Council about how we are going to fund the future. There are some lovely people around who know about funding, such as Lorna, who are helping us, but it is a serious threat to the future. One of the things that I've actually said to Hastings Borough Council is the irony is not lost on me. It's Hastings Borough Council that wanted it to become bigger and bigger and bigger, and now you're the ones that are complaining that you can't afford it. Make up your mind. Part of it is to do with how money that comes into the town goes around. And what's happening now is that money that goes into the town, a lot of it doesn't go around, it goes out again. That doesn't help. Also, that money that comes into the town, instead of the business rates going back into Hastings, go to East Sussex, who then spend it in Lewis. So that don't help. So there's a number of political things going on there, but it's a threat, but we're working on it. And we've already said that the bottom line is, if it comes to it, we'll just go back to where we started, and a handful of people will go out with a Jack-in-the-Green around the pubs of the town and distribute leaves as we did in the first year. The only difference is that this time there'll be about 30,000 people following us. But that's not our problem. That's their problem for creating a problem. Insurance is an issue. Health and safety is an issue. I mean, get this. The stage on the West Hill, it's made out of scaffolding. We got it for nothing, as a favour from the scaffolding company. Until someone came along and said, oh, you can't do that. Why not? Well, the temporary structures regulations, you have to have a properly constructed stage, which now costs us £1,000. For what?
You finish on the stage, you've got the toilets there and you've got a stage there.
The stage is something that we're considering, but there's a problem. There's all these sodding motorbikes in the way. Part of the reason we had to go to the West Hill was to get away from bikes. And one of my solutions that I've said to the council is, well, if you charge each bike £1 each, you pay for it. So there's that. That's a threat.
okay with it.
I can see Kevin smirking in the back. But let's not go too far down that political. Just watch this space. But suffice to say, we're on it. We're not just letting it go. We're not rolling over. We're on it. But the third one, and this is just a thought to let you go away with. Society has changed considerably since 40 years ago. And it's not what it was. And I remember when I were a lad. And the sorts of things that we got up to would now be considered to be terribly bad. And I remember in the early years of Jack-in-the-Green, when we went into the Fisherman's Museum, one of the blokes, and I can't remember who, thought it would be a great idea to grab someone walking past and pull them into the museum and paint their face green and throw them out again. And it got to the point where they started choosing buxom young ladies to do this too. And it then got to the point where we had a queue of buxom young ladies asking to come in. And yet now, 40 years or 30 years later, that would be considered to be a terribly bad thing to do. Yeah? You get what I mean? So that's a change in society. 40 years ago, I was talking about taking a barrel of beer around with us on a cart. Last year, we had a barrel of beer with us on a cart. And I had people phoning up complaining to me that we were daring to have a barrel of beer with us and daring to drink beer on the street. That's a change in society. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm not making any judgments. I'm saying that society is changing. And interestingly, our sons, and we've been pulling their legs relentlessly about it, have said, we don't want beer, we want water. Not confused. Beer is mainly water. But no, and
I blame the parents.
yeah. and I've said to them, I said, you do realise that you're actually more conservative than your parents. What the hell's going on? I suppose you've got to rebel. And the only way they can rebel against us lot is to go the other way. But I do think society's changing. I mean, a few years back, I gave a talk predicting that society would become, it would parallel what happened in the 17th century. And that we would get a return of the Long Parliament, with people stopping us doing things like dancing, drinking and having fun and all the rest of it. And everybody said, you're talking rubbish. We've already had a smoking ban. We're already having no drinking on the street. And it's only a matter of time, I believe, before it becomes considered to be socially terribly wrong to drink alcohol. And yeah. As a folklorist, watch this space. I hope I live long enough to study it, because it's fascinating, just in its own way. And I'll leave you there. Any questions?
Yeah, I was wondering, Keith, I've been very curious. Who are the bogies?
Well, if you come to the stag later, Andy, I believe that you'll sing us a song about it.
All right. Well, we'll sing a song about it later, won't we?
Yeah.
We'll sing a song about it.
What's your take on have you seen the Coronation Invitation? With it basically Jack-in-the-Green base at the bottom of it.
It's good, isn't it? There's a green man logo. There's a lot of talk about whether the green man and the Jack-in-the-Green are not the same thing. People kind of but they're not.
It's a foliate head, isn't it?
It's a foliate head, and they're actually from different roots. But yeah, it's still interesting that was there.
Yeah. In May as well.
Yeah. Sorry? Tomorrow morning, yeah, we're sleeping. Forest dancing starts at 12. Yeah.
I'm still a bit confused about when you take the leaf. I always thought it brought you good luck.
Does.
And that you're supposed to burn it on bonfire night to keep the good luck going. Is that right?
Some of us do.
Yeah.
Is this something that you made up? Or is this a kind of
I've made it all up, alright? But it's good, isn't it? It's a good bit of makeup, it's a good bit of mythology, it's a good
I
story.
live by that, though. I live by that. I get my leaf and I actually burn it on bonfire night.
Well, the actual green bogies during the front procession, Jack-in-the-Green, were also the black bogies, and we blacked up in those days before it became like inappropriate. And we were the guys that pulled the fire cart at the back of Battle Bonfire. So in May we'll be at the front of the procession in green. In November we'll be at the back of procession in battle. So it was like turning the year, it was a cycle. Yeah. And a lot of us did bring some of the
the hairdresses that we wear, we hang on to them and then we burn them in the fire cars at the back of the Battle Bonfire.
Yeah.
Because in those days, Hastings Bonfire didn't exist. Hastings Bonfire came out of a Battle Bonfire. Yeah. When John JITG came up to me and said, you organised Jack-in-the-Green? I said, yes. He said, in which case you can organise a bonfire. I bet you're a fiver, you won't. I said, done.
Can we find a bogey on bonfire?
Roger.
Anyway, if you look at the models in George Street, it says we're going to burn Elsa. I saw it.
Burn the witch.
Yeah.
You mentioned that the size of the event is becoming a problem.
Yeah.
Why do you think it's so popular? Why do you think so many people are latching onto it, both here and around the country?
It's a growing phenomenon. There's now a thing called the Company of the Green Man, which actually charts the number of these events that are happening, and every year there'll be another half a dozen popping up all over the place. It's a change in society. It's good. I mean, I actually do see it as good. I really do think it's important. The English people have more songs, dances and customs than any other nation in the world. And yet they're the very people who ignore them and laugh at them, which is weird. And I think it's important that we embrace our customs and that we embrace our own culture, not because we're xenophobic, but because if we know who we are and we're rooted in ourselves, we have no need to be afraid of foreigners because we'll understand them better and understand their cultures. One of the great things about Hastings Jack-in-the-Green is the sense of community, and it's one of the great. I think it's another reason. It brings the community together. I think that's really important.
Do you know it's listed as one of the top 10 weirdest things to do in the UK?
I've probably done the other name.